another Florida sunset. You can't beat it down here, everybody. It's beautiful. This is right down the street from my house. Big old cow pasture. So come on now. Ain't that something? That'll make you feel a bit blessed, won't it? Anywho, let's get started. What's up, world? How's everybody doing today, tonight, tomorrow? As I always say, whatever time, realm, dimension you're living in. Hope you're doing great, feeling blessed. Hope you enjoyed that little view of a Florida sunset. That's just part of the beauty in the world, that we get so caught up and so lost in the chaos that surrounds us. Sometimes we forget and we miss what's right outside our windows. No matter how this life goes, no matter how much chaos and just the BS we have to go through in this world, don't forget there's still a beautiful world around us, and don't forget to enjoy it. Because if you don't, what are you fighting for? So, anywho, let's get to the story real quick. Just a couple of quick updates about the press conference. The last one with the sheriff, basically shutting off the media.
Conference will be done strictly through my narrative provided to you.
Shutting off the independent media. They're not allowed into these press conferences anymore because they asked the correct questions.
No questions. What time did MGM call police? You guys still haven't laid that.
They question the narrative. They cross-examine what they say, and since all this, they flipped everything upside down. They don't want them in there. They want their little cookie-cutter people in there to ask the questions that are set up, and they know the answers to. We've seen the whole story change. This story has so many holes in it. It has more holes in this supposed door that had 200 rounds shot at it, that the security guard was outside. It had 200 rounds. When you look at these photos, do you see any evidence of 200 rounds going through these doors? No. Once again, the story's not adding up. The sheriff turned on the waterworks. He goes up there. He uses the victims. He uses everybody, the heroes. Let's not talk about the fact that this story has completely flipped around. No questions. He even announces it. No questions. We're not taking questions because, honestly, we don't know how to answer them. And he turns the waterworks on it. It's all about the victims instead of let's get to the bottom and let's find out for these victims who really did this and who needs to answer for it.
And I think it's important for you to be given an accurate picture of what is occurring associated with the injuries of the 1 October event. In the early throes of this tragedy, I had advised each and every one of you that items of information were going to change. And you can't expect exact answers in the early throws. My intent in the early throws were to give you the information to provide that calmness in the community to ensure that we didn't have a second player or a third player out hiding in the community intending to cause us harm. So there was no integrity question associated with that, as I've experienced through the cyberspace, questioning my integrity. I provided you the information as I knew it, and everybody in here knew it was going to change. So we will get through that. I'm not giving you 100% satisfaction associated with what I'm going to give you today, because I think some of that's going to change. So 17 separate medical facilities. Today's numbers, 546 reported injuries. 501 of those have been discharged. In other words, they responded to a medical facility, they were treated for their wounds, and subsequently left to seek healing process wherever they chose to do so. 58 is still the number of individuals that have died. Now, this is an important piece. 45 individuals are still hospitalized. Some of those are in critical condition. So 58 may raise. By the grace of God, it doesn't. and we shall continue to move forward. The medical profession will provide all the medical care necessary, but sometimes it's people meet their demise outside of our control. Not get changed, but I want to provide you some information reference to the fuel tanks. It is believed the fuel tanks were fired upon with intent. McCarran's leaders have safety protocols in place which they re-examine following any safety-related incident. The leaders have already contacted experts in fuel storage out of the abundance of caution. I am more than confident that they will immediately implement any changes or security augmentations if they are so advised. That aviation fuel could be ignited by gunfire, and the tanks are outfitted for continual release of vapors. The dates of the 25th versus the 28th. This was not breaking news, no matter who believed it to be so in this form. We were aware of the discrepancy of the 28th versus the 25th in the early parts of this investigation. What we weren't aware of is why the date of the 28th was utilized in the early portion of this, as I was provided this information as part of the person registered in the suspect's room. We have come to learn the suspect did occupy the room on the 25th, so that was the confusion associated with that. No matter what the perception is, whether we were being non-transparent or we were attempting to be subversive, is false. I was acting on the information at the time I was provided it. Yes, there has been an autopsy performed on Mr. Paddock, or the suspect. In the early evaluation, there was no abnormalities observed visually. As a matter of practice in the forensic science, his brain has been shipped to an appropriate evaluation facility in order to take a microscopic evaluation of the brain. Now the timeline. Unfortunately, a great deal of my investigators' time has been preoccupied on this timeline. In the public space, the word incompetence has been brought forward, and I am absolutely offended with that characterization. So, the information was obtained via security logs. Officer Campos himself, body-worn cameras, hotel cameras, lock interrogation, my dispatch, LVMPD dispatch, hotel and private cameras, and interviews. I still stand by the time of 21:59, 9:59. It's important that you continue to listen to me. 9:59 is important. It wasn't inaccurate when I provided to you. The circumstances associated with it is inaccurate. Okay? I am very well aware of the MGM statement provided yesterday. I agree with their statement. I'm not in conflict with their statement. But here's what I will tell you. We were provided the time of 21:59 as a human entry into a security log. Through investigation, we have determined that Mr. Campos had encountered the barricaded door adjacent to the suspect's door at approximately 21:59. In his attempt to gain entry to the 32nd floor, he required him to ascend to another level and eventually make access to the 32nd floor. He went to the doorway that he was dispatched to originally to address the open doorway. He mitigated that situation and subsequently received fire from the suspect. When you culminate that timeline associated from the initial 2159 to the 2205 timeline that we are still stand by as the initial volley of fire. Mr. Campos received his wounds in close proximity to 2205. He attempted to relay that information via his radio, and it was confirmed because he also relayed that information via his cell phone. So the timeline associated to both of those sources have been verified. 2205, the number that was provided earlier, referenced the majority of fire upon our community. We still stand by that time, and that was done by the combination of different sources that I listed for you earlier. 2217, 12 minutes. That is when our officers first arrived on the 32nd floor. 12 minutes. You are very well aware the suspect fired at approximately 10 minutes. At an active shooter. At that point, we conducted evacuations of the rooms adjacent to the suspect's room, and you know the rest. So, there is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything. Reference this investigation. The dynamics and the size of this event. My intent, like I stated earlier, is to give you information as I know it, unverified, to calm the public, not to establish a legal case. Everybody understand that? No question, sir. My concern was the initial safety of the community, whether we had any other bad actors out there that we had to address, and I feel confident there are no other individuals intending to cause harm to our community associated with the 1 October event. These officers calmly took care of the wounded and the dying as they waited for medical transport, at times placing the critical victims on the backs of trucks so they could get them to the hospital quickly. Not all the victims made it out as the night wore on. Those same officers were assigned to guard the deceased victims, not allowing any of them to be left alone. Brady sustained 4 separate gunshot wounds. And when I say separate, that's entries and exits. It's not actually 4 separate bullets. Maybe he was preventing the wolf from getting to his door sooner than later, but he chose to fire upon the police vehicles. And the reason why I bring this one up, he asked me if he could go back to work today. Samuel Whitwer. Excuse me for my emotion. Samuel was laying on his couch with a very intensive wound to his leg. During the melee and his attempt to evacuate victims, he sustained a broken leg. But he remained on scene and provided security for the medical personnel. So
Sheriff, there's a matter of public interest. What time did MGM call police? You guys still haven't laid that.
Even mainstream now is starting to kind of pick up on this and go, something smells wrong. Now, they're not going to ask the questions they should be asking, but at least they're kind of bringing the general public in and opening their eyes to something not being right. We actually saw the Fed speak, finally, and Mr. Creepy Fed. And once again, he said, if you have any information, make sure you give it to us. You know, don't spread it. Make sure we get it so we can erase it. Just like the people who left their phones and other devices there. Once they received these devices back, they figured out that they had been wiped clean. They're not going to let anything get out that they don't want to. If they can, at least if they can help it, they're not going to allow that to happen.
Thank you, Sheriff. I am Aaron Rouse. I'm the Special Agent in charge for the FBI in Las Vegas. Globally, we have hundreds of agents covering every facet of this investigation. Nothing will be overlooked. Hundreds of interviews have been conducted so far. Close to 2,000 leads have been covered so far. Extensive review of digital media on a multitude of devices is ongoing. Over 1,000 pieces of evidence have been collected and are being reviewed by the FBI laboratory. Hours and hours of video footage from hotels continues to be reviewed, and the return of personal property continues. We continue to ask you, if you have factual information in furtherance of this investigation, please call us. If you know something, say something. And will not comment on specifics of this investigation while it's in process. This is in keeping with the long-standing FBI tradition. We will use that energy to learn as much as we can about this horrible crime so that we may prevent another one from happening. I thank you.
Now, the sheriff said something pretty funny during this press conference that kind of caught me, and I don't know if everybody picked up on that, but he was talking about one moment during the shootout, and he said something about, we wanted to make sure there were no more bad actors out there.
My concern was the initial safety of the community, whether we had any other bad actors out there that we had to address, and I feel confident there are no other individuals intending to cause harm to our community associated with the 1 October event.
Actors, huh? Now, granted, this could have been just a slip up. He meant to say apples and he said actors. It happens, you know, but was this some kind of little Freudian slip up? Did he have actors in his head and meant to say, you know, and everything got goofed up? I'm not saying this is like a smoking gun. I'm just saying it's kind of ironic with everything that's been going on.
No question, sir.
It's funny, they want us to shut up about this whole thing. They don't want to answer questions anymore, even though the story keeps changing, even though their story does not add up. And we have all too many times pointed this out. They want us to just shut up and be spoon-fed this BS that they keep giving us. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't agree with what I say, or with a lot of us of what we say. And to those, I mean, look, if you don't agree, I understand. You have your own opinion. I'm not going to try to force anybody to think what I think. We're all entitled to our own thoughts and opinions. So I ask that same courtesy when it comes to a lot of people on here. Don't rip people for having an opinion on something. Just because somebody thinks differently of you, it doesn't make them an idiot or a lot of other words. And I've said before, if it gets too bad, I will yank you off. So don't be shocked. Those of you who don't like the way I talk or the way that I do things, don't watch. Nobody forces you to. It's our choices in life to do what we do. So, don't try to force others down your same road. A lot of folks out there, I want to say, please keep your comments coming. Don't let those frustrate you who say what they say. Your insight and opinions on things are amazing. I truly appreciate a lot of the stuff that everybody has said and pointed out. Some have pointed out the last video that light is possibly an elevator light that comes on when people enter the elevator. I'm never going to come on here and say that it's 100% proof, blah, 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 blah. Not Alex Jones. I have connections. I'll admit if I'm wrong. I do think it is very ironic that the light does match up with the shooting. Now, could this have been an area where somebody was shooting? They used the light as cover? I don't know. There's so many scenarios that have been worked out. Some people analyze the sound through some of these videos, and you hear these helicopters that look like they come in at the same time as the shooting. Others have pointed out the fact it could be even weaponized drones. We do have this technology. Unfortunately, if it is that technology, it goes to show you even more of who's behind it. If you haven't seen the Health Ranger put out a video where he actually analyzes the sound in a couple of videos, mathematically matches them up somehow of the initial shot to when it hits, and he figures out the distance that it was shot at, basically a sound ballistics test, and does an amazing job of basically mathematically proving there were at least 2 shooters in the videos that he analyzed. If you haven't seen this video, I'm going to put a link in the description. Check it out. Great video. Also, I'm going to put a link to the whole press conference so you can see the sheriff and all his waterwork glory say what he says. Now, throughout this whole story, the biggest thing, though, I think that we have is the fact that Jesus is missing. The main lead witness here to this case, now that it is completely flipped around and focused on his timing on arrival and being shot and reporting what he did, this guy's missing. He was set to do an interview with Hannity and a bunch of other organizations, and now the guy's a ghost. Some are saying that he was arrested. If he was, please send me some information on this. I haven't seen it yet. I would love to see it. But the fact this guy's missing, he's a ghost now. He's nowhere to be found. People went to his house, asked questions. There's some security company staying at his house, and as far as the information they got on the security company, supposedly they're not even in business anymore. Along with that, his registration on his car is from '06.
So this is his house. I mean, we're here. So far, there's no security.
Hi, it's John.
Hi, can we speak to Jesus Campos?
We have information that he's actually missing, and he canceled his interview with Sean Hannity. There's major concern throughout the nation that something happened to him.
Is he missing or is he here?
I have to go.
He's not here?
We can't talk about stuff right now.
Is he missing now? Because people are wondering if something happened to him. They're worried about his safety.
I can't talk right now.
Okay. Now his security guard is here. So, hi Troy. Is Jesus Campos missing right now because he canceled all of his interviews tonight and didn't show up for his Sean Hannity interview?
Troy, and also
I would have no information on any of that. Okay?
You said that you worked for On Scene, a security company. We did a background check on Scene, and the business license for On Scene expired in January of 2017, and it has a virtual address. So the company that you work for, is it a real security company, or is it just some type of, shill company that the FBI or DHS or LVMPD is using?
yeah, these are
No
major
comment.
flags.
Was it that somebody is providing armed security, but the armed security company doesn't even have a valid business to be providing armed security? Do you work for the FBI? Do you work for DHS? Or do you work for LVMPD? No comment. Red Corvette doesn't even have an accurate registration. It says 06. Are you telling me his registration is all the way from 2006? Am I reading that
We
correct?
ran the plates as a salvage title as well.
What year are we in right now? 2017, and this guy has registration from 2006. Jesus Campos, I've confirmed with multiple people in law enforcement and people who know friends and family members of Jesus Campos that this is his vehicle. Is he even like a legitimate security guard? We ran his credentials and he's not even registered with the state of Nevada in like the appropriate areas where it would, list whether he was a legitimate credentialed security guard. I mean, who is this guy? Is he an accomplice? Like, he's the last person to see Stephen Paddock alive before he committed the worst massacre in U.S. history. Do you think that it's unfair for people to want to know about Jesus Campos?
Also, MGM wiped him from the database, which is
Right.
a major red flag, so it's like he never even worked there.
I mean, a lot of things aren't making sense here. This whole story is so ass backwards, it's ridiculous. There are so many different things that go against what they're telling us, yet we're still supposed to swallow this and believe it. I won't. They can keep trying to shut us up. They can keep trying to hold us back, hold videos back, hold whatever on Facebook, you name it, whatever social media out there where people are trying to get the truth, they're going to keep trying to hold us down. We cannot slow down. We cannot hold back. We must speed up and keep pursuing for the truth. Now, as the sheriff went out and said all he said for the victims, that we need to, respect the victims. More than anything, we need to go out there and find the truth for anybody, any victim. That's what I would want, and I'm sure that's what they would want. I wouldn't want my life to end in lies, and my memory be covered in lies. It's just not what I would want. So everybody out there, please keep the information coming, keep the comments coming. I appreciate it. Share videos. That's the only way we're going to get things out there. I'm not making money off these. I just want the information out there. That's all. Okay? Folks, I can't thank you enough for all you do and all you say. It really, and for allowing me to do this. Earlier in my life, I would have never thought that I would be out here doing this and reaching this many people to get my opinion and my thoughts out there to the rest of the world. And it really does mean the world to me. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Y'all keep doing what you're doing. As I always say, more than anything, y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay incredible. See ya.